For Lawrence Ferlinghetti, living to be 100 is no fun. Speaking from his home in North Beach recently, Ferlinghetti said he's practically blind now, he can't read, and he's skipping his big birthday bash.
At City Lights, they're going to have quite a celebration, but I won't be there. It's no use my appearing in public because I couldn't speak. I mean, I could speak, but on account of my eyesight, it would be... I don't know what it would be.
This essay's topic, poetry as an insurgent, encompasses music, art, poetry, and even politics. The name is borrowed from Lawrence Ferlinghetti's poem of the same name. It is an attempt to introduce a theory recognized by iconic poet Lawrence Ferlinghetti, one that insists poetry can be more than a delectable oral art form, but also an open dialogue among the cultures across the globe who share the same views and similar obstacles with parallel poetic passion. This essay will touch on art as a response to poetry and politics as a consequential factor of its expressionistic nature. It will tour the globe, highlighting two famous poet activists, Maya Angelou and Mahmoud Darwish. The poet Maya Angelou was born in St. Louis in 1928. She had endured an early childhood separation from her parents when she was sent to her grandmother's in Arkansas. She also underwent traumatizing childhood experiences and witnessed hard times of the Great Depression with her grandmother's general store. She also experienced racism, with all of these experiences greatly impacting who Maya would become. Angelou moved to Cairo and then to Ghana. She also toured Europe as a member of an opera and began learning a series of languages. While in Africa, she worked as a newspaper editor and a freelance writer, as well as in the radio. It wasn't until 1968, after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. and moving back to New York, that Angelou penned her first memoir, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. Among the numerous awards and accolades Angelou received are the National Medal of Arts in 2000, the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2011, and the Literarian Award by the National Book Foundation in 2013. From this point on in her career, Angelou became a prolific writer, poet, and speaker. She followed up her first memoir with 6 more, publishing her last one in 2013. When Maya Angelou died in 2014, she was still active as a speaker and writer.
But today, the rock cries out to us, clearly, forcefully, come, you may stand upon my back and face your distant destiny, but seek no haven in my shadow. I will give you no hiding place down here.
A stanza from Maya Angelou's poem On the Pulse of Morning, composed for the Clinton inaugural. So say the Asian, the Hispanic, the Jew, the African and Native American, the Sioux, the Catholic, the Muslim, the French, the Greek, the Irish, the rabbi, the priest, the sheik, the gay, the straight, the preacher, the privileged, the homeless, the teacher. They hear, they all hear. Romare Bearden, an African-American artist, worked with many types of media, from painted cartoons to mixed media collages, creating scenes of the American South. He was a veteran of World War II and was one of the many artists inspired by Maya Angelou and her work regarding unity within humanity. His work was commonly known as expressionistic, linear, and semi-abstract style, influenced by Henri Matisse and high modernists, with his subjects such as urban cityscapes that emphasized African American culture, and later artwork that focused solely on collage techniques as symbolizing the coming together of tradition within different communities. This paralleled Angelou's philosophy regarding unity among humanity and bringing to light social crisis around the world. To Dr. Angelou, you give me hope and inspiration. Quote by artist Alonzo Adam, penciled along the left arm of the subject of Phenomenal Woman, 1993, a watercolor depicting a proud African-American woman raising her arms with strength and confidence. Maya's Quilt of Life, made in 1989, is a narrative quilt by Faith Ringgold in honor of Maya Angelou and commissioned by Oprah Winfrey. Ringgold is known for paintings incorporating textile works of art. To date, she has created almost 100 narrative quilts. In Maya's Quilt of Life, it has text taken from Maya Angelou's writings. like columns framing the painting, almost as if the text, quite literally, adds embellishment to the subject. Nigel Freeman, director of Swan's African American Fine Art Department, in response to the piece, said, quote, "The text could be at the top or the sides. Sometimes they wrap around. The important thing is that it's Angelo's writing. It's not just the visual creativity of the artist. It's the voice of the artist and the women involved." A close friend of Maya Angelou, Elizabeth Catlett, included personal messages inscribed in her works dedicated to the poet. Maya Angelou referred to Catlett as the Queen of the Arts. Her artwork shows portraits of spirited women. On the Subway, offset lithograph, 1986. An unyielding face depicting the dignity among the working class. And Two Generations, 1979. Enduring the theme of mother and child through a mixture of abstract elements and figurative technique. These works were inspired by Maya Angelou and were kept in her private personal art collection. It is important to note that these poets do not hope to embody a sublime image, one of unattainable dimensions, but rather express their own struggles and in doing so relate to the people in the most human way, as Maya Angelou stresses that what she hopes young minds to aspire to be, everything they think they can be. She uses her longtime friend Martin Luther King Jr. as an example.
Dr. King was a human being. He had a sense of humor, which was wonderful. It is very dangerous to make a person larger than life, because then young men and women are tempted to believe, well, if he was that great, he's inaccessible. And I can never try to be that, or emulate that, or achieve that. The truth is, Martin Luther King was a human being with a brilliant mind, a powerful heart, and insight, and courage, and also with a sense of humor. So he was accessible.
You are Whitman, you are Poe, you are Mark Twain, you are Emily Dickinson and Edna St. Vincent Millay, you are Neruda and Mayakovsky, and Pasolini. You are an American or a non-American. You can conquer the conquerors with words. Palestinian Mahmoud Darwish was born in 1942 and left with his family when he was little to escape the razing of their village during occupation. When they returned, they were considered internal refugees, and instead Darwish lived for years in exile in Beirut and Paris. He earned the Knights of Arts and Belles Lettres medal from France. When he traveled between villages, he was considered a resistance poet and placed under house arrest for his poem Identity Card. He died in 2008 in Houston, Texas. Caroline Forche, in her book called Mural, described his work as assimilating centuries of Arabic poetic forms and applying the chisel of modern sensibility. He subjected his art to the impress of exile, to his own demand that the work remain true to itself, independent of its critical and public reception. Darwish told the New York Times in a 2001 interview in Paris, "Sometimes I feel as if I am read before I write. When I write a poem about my mother, Palestinians think my mother is a symbol for Palestine. But I write as a poet, and my mother is my mother. She's not a symbol." A quote from Mahmoud Darwish's journal, A River Dies of Thirst. "We will become a people if we want to, when we learn that we are not angels and that evil is not the prerogative of others. We will become a people when we forget what the tribe tells us, when the individual recognizes the importance of small details. We will become a people when a writer can look up at the stars without saying, 'Our country is loftier and more beautiful.' We will become a people when the morality police protect a prostitute from being beaten up in the streets. We will become a people if we want to. We will become a people when we respect the right and the wrong." Darwish took encouragement from a Jewish teacher in his childhood who taught him how unity can be attained through mutual respect and break down borders. Oftentimes, Darwish would recite his poem in Arabic with Le Trio Joubran, a French Palestinian instrumental band that also did collaborations with Pink Floyd's Roger Waters in memory of Darwish, Roger Waters was in the company of Palestinian friends when he first heard of Darwish's poems as it was being recited with Latrell Gibran's musical hymn of the Ouds. He thought it was beautiful and immediately looked up the translation of Darwish's poem. Supremacy features Roger Waters as the reciter of Darwish's poem, The Penultimate Speech of the Red Indian and the White Man, in English, while the melody of the Ouds by Latrell can be heard in the background. The following is a stanza from the Supremacy collaboration.
This is the age of industry. The age of coal, fossils to fuel your thirst for fine wine. There are the dead, and the settlements, the dead, and the bulldozers, the dead, and the hospitals. There are radar screens to capture the dead.
Roger Waters continues to be inspired from Darwish on topics of exile and taking down border walls, as seen in Roger's own album, Is This the Life We Really Want?, released shortly after the collaboration with Latrell Gibran in 2017, with such songs as The Last Refugee.
Searching the sand for a relic washed up by the sea. The last refugee.
This is an attempt to understand Ferlinghetti's vision through other artists and poets. We can be born anywhere and may not even share the exact culture of these poets, but isn't that an exact example of the ideas portrayed by poets such as Angelo, Darwish, and Ferlinghetti? That poetry has an international language that speaks to anyone through lyrical phrases that translate into innumerable forms of art, paintings, and music. What can start as simple oral and literary art expression can connect us as it transpires beyond the physicality, whether through musical inspiration such as Mahmoud Darwish or inspiring art and political figures like the poet Maya Angelou. Poets can continue to inspire through generations and cultures. Poetry is as much subliminal in our subconscious as it is flexible in form, because it takes refuge sometimes in music, sometimes in paintings, and sometimes even in politics. Whatever form it takes at the moment, it will only continue to spread during these tumultuous times.
Nevertheless, Ferlinghetti has a lot to celebrate. His 1958 book of poetry, A Coney Island of the Mind, sold more than 1 million copies.